Let me read to you again the text we used last Friday. That's in James 3, starting on verse 1. Okay. Not many should become teachers, my brothers, because you know that we will receive a stricter judgment, for we will all stumble in many ways. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is mature, able also to control the whole body. Now, if we put bits into the mouths of horses so that they obey us, we direct their whole bodies. And consider ships. Though very large and driven by fierce winds, they are guided by a very small rudder. Wherever the will of the pilot directs, so too. Though the tongue is a small part of the body, it boasts great things. Consider how a small fire sets ablaze a large forest. I'll concentrate on the last part of verse 5, that's 5c. Consider how a small fire sets ablaze a large forest. Now, the metaphors used by James are very intentional. Bits on horses' mouth, rudder of a ship, and lastly, fire. Now, all of those, the first two are instruments that can be used to control. Okay? Fire is different. It can't be used as an instrument to control in this illustration, but the small start that can set a large forest ablaze or on fire. The idea is nobody is in total control over their lives. I am not in total control over my life. You know, you are not in total control over your life. The false promise of the progressives is take control over your life. You cannot. You don't have the ability. Because left alone, man is very self-destructive because of sin. Okay? Now, can you imagine even Adam and Eve, left alone in the garden, they missed just one command, don't eat. They still ate. Because we are created to be totally dependent on God. So, the moment you bring in the element of dependency, then it brings in an outside element of control over that who is dependent. Okay, so we will never be 100% independent, even in eternity. Now, there are driving forces in our lives. I don't know what drives you, but there are driving forces in our lives. One of the summaries that the Bible gave is desire. When we are driven by our desires, that can be the controlling factor in our life. So, one of the elementary questions that we can ask is, what desires do we have? Because those desires can truly help us move mountains. And you can study in history, even those that are not believers, when a certain passion, when a certain desire drives them, it will make them move mountains in front of them. Then James will move on to the next metaphor, and that is fire. Say fire. That's what we will study tonight. Faith on fire, okay? James 3 verse 5. I don't know if we will get into that, but let's start with the verse, okay? Let's start with the last passage of the last week. So too, though the tongue is a small part of the body, it boasts great things. Consider how a small fire sets ablaze a large forest. Okay? You know, the way the grammar is constructed here can be translated in many different ways. You can also say that a large forest can give an opportunity to this little fire to be set ablaze. Okay? Because if a fire is started and there are very little combustible materials, it will not be a large fire. So the forest itself can be an opportunity for this little fire to become as big as the forest. Okay? Now, The tongue, and the tongue is a fire. So remember this, our tongues are fires. The tongue, a world of unrighteousness, is placed among our members. It stains the whole body. Look at that. Unrighteousness, I can understand, but a tongue stains the whole body. Sets the course of life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. Every kind of animal, bird, reptile, and fish is tamed and has been tamed by humankind. But no one can tame the tongue. Question, can you tame your own tongue? And there was silence in heaven for 1 hour. Can you tame your own tongue? Can you? Well, it says here, no one can tame the tongue. But we are told to tame our tongue. James himself. But it says here, no one can tame the tongue. Okay? Can the ship control the rudder? But a pilot, that is not, a pilot can tame, can control the rudder. Right? Can the horse control the bit in his mouth? No. But the rider can control the bit. You see how all of this actually are pointing to the same direction. But no one can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil. Restless evil. I mean, in the Philippines we have a term, putak ng putak, you know. It's a restless evil. In America, I think the term is motor mouth, you know. Full of deadly poison. Especially if you don't brush your teeth. I mean, it's going to be deadly. With the tongue, we bless our Lord and Father. And with it, we curse people who are made in God's likeness. Look at this, with the same tongue. And James said, we. So he included himself. So maybe because James, when he was younger, when he was just new in the ministry, he was a very angry person, you know. And he doesn't like those Gentiles being saved and not being circumcised. So I know how many of them he cursed. That's why he was talking about this. Blessing and cursing come out of the same mouth. So our mouth can either bless or curse. My brothers and sisters, these things should not be this way. So there goes the solution, the way out. It doesn't have to be this way. Does a spring pour out sweet and bitter water from the same opening? Can a fig tree produce olives, my brothers and sisters, or a grapevine produce figs? Neither can a salt water spring yield fresh water. Those next metaphors actually points to the fact that the tongue after the fall has never been used properly. Sometimes it's being used properly, sometimes it's not. It doesn't have to be. So this gives us hope that our tongue, we'll just put it this way, our speech, words that are coming out of our mouth, has come to a turn of salvation, wherein you can use it for its intended purpose, like a fig tree is not going to yield olives. So our tongue, our speech as designed by God, doesn't have to be used for cursing. Now keep in mind that all the pictures we are seeing represents our faith walk. Don't forget that faith without works is dead is perhaps the main theme of the book of James. So don't interpret this, your tongue is a fire, outside of the context of walking by faith. Now, let's review a little bit, okay? Whoever is controlling your tongue or the words that are coming out of your mouth is the one who controls your life. Okay? So sometimes you may not, well, we know this. Have you noticed sometimes you say something? You're in a company. You say something, and then your boss heard you and say, "What did you say?" You back off right away. You see? You intend to be angry, and somebody says, hold your tongue. And you stop. Now, you're very angry, and in your own meditation, you say, "I'm going to be very upset." But somebody more powerful than you are said, "Hold it," especially your boss, "or I'll get rid of you." And immediately, the lack of self-control which previously you felt is suddenly under control. Certainly, it's not coming from yourself, because you were losing yourself already. But then a force, external force, more powerful than you are, said, "Stop it!" And you stop. It's not you who stopped yourself. It's somebody else. Somebody controls you. Now, we all understand this. People who are fighting, you watch your kids fighting, and it seems like they're going to kill each other. And then if you are a good parent, you call their attention and say, "Apologize to each other now." And reluctantly, even if they don't want, they apologize. Right, DJ? So you may be bragging that you are in control, but suddenly you felt that. There's really this force that you felt impose its will on you. And suddenly, somebody is controlling you. Okay? Now, who controls you? I want you to understand this. Who is controlling your life, or who or what is the influence that is making you say what you are saying, or the words that are coming out of your lips, or do what you're doing? Now let me say this. As I said earlier, no one is in total control of what comes out of his mouth. Even as a horse really doesn't have any control as to where he goes because of the bit. It can hurt him if he fights the direction of the rider, okay? If a ship, now look at the ship, if it's very stormy and the rider is small, there comes a point, if you know how to ride a boat, you let go of the rudder. Because if the waves are very strong and you held on to the rudder, it'll break the rudder. Yeah. Have you driven in a snow and then your car skid? What's the number one rule when your car skids? Don't brake. What else? Let go of the steering wheel. Yeah. The moment your car starts spinning, you let go of the steering wheel. Because if you don't let go of the steering wheel, the more you will get into more trouble. You've got to let go of it. Yeah. My car is spun once, and I'm telling you, this feeling of you have absolutely no control because of snow. It was a 4-lane, going one side, going the other side, and my car just spun on the other side. And I can see the cars from afar coming in. I said, "Whoa." And I remember that you have to so I just let go. I let go of the brakes, let go of the car, and it stopped. And the amazing thing is when it stopped, it stopped on the side, on the curb, so it was good for me. But I was totally nervous. You have absolutely no control. Okay? Now, well, when I fell asleep, there's behind the wheels, I have no control also. So somebody must be wielding influence on our lives. And sometimes you have seen some people who are bullies or trying to appear like they are stronger than they look. and then their wives come. You know, remember that cartoon in the Philippines? This bully bragging. You see this tattoo? It's an alligator. You know, you see this is an eagle. You know, I forgot the other one. And a stronger bully came and said, "What did you say? What is that? Ano yan? Buhaya?" Hindi, butiki. You know, lizard. What's that? Eagle? No. Mayang pipit. You know. What's the other one? A snake. Yung pala, bulate. You know. Simply because somebody is stronger came. And even if in your inside you want to oppose it, you feel powerless. And you know, in the world of faith, in the world of sin and righteousness, we feel the same way. Paul said it this way. He said, the Spirit of the Lord compels me. At one point he said, the love of God compels me. So the love of the Lord becomes a compelling force. He said, I am a debtor, I'm obliged. That's a controlling factor there. Can you imagine if your gratitude towards God is so strong and so real that you feel obliged to do something about it? I know that a lot of Christians live their lives without feeling obligated, you know, on anything. They'll do whatever they want. But Paul is very real in his relationship with God. He said, I feel obliged. If you are controlled by the Spirit of God, or if you are led by the Spirit of God, then the words from God will be the ones coming out of your mouth and directing your life. Now, most of the time we say, well, I want to follow the Scriptures. I want to confess the word of the Lord. But then, in a critical situation, suddenly you forgot all of that. And something else is coming out of your mouth, and another set of action is being produced by your body. That is a clear indication you had no control over what happened. Now, you are still responsible. I mean, you are still responsible, but you have no control. Now, the main control of your life is also the main motivation of your life. Now, motivation is a neutral word. Why did the Russian soldiers attack Ukraine? They said, well, the contractor said, we are being paid $500 per month. I said, whoa, $500 per month. The living standard in Russia must be so low that $500 per month they are willing to put their lives on the line by a meager $500. You said, that's too much. Not really. Some of us are willing to bargain for a lot less. Why don't, I know you're not supposed to work on this Sunday, but I'll give you 4 hours or 8 hours of extra work. I'll give you $10 more. That's only $80, less than $500. And yet we are willing. That means that $80 is able to control your obedience to God. Now that's putting it in a very simplistic way, because I know the situations that some of us are in. But this is how easily we can understand this. Later on, they said that we were giving wrong information. So some of them begin to say, well, back off. But that is an illustration. Some people say, we can't go back. We will be killed. So the preservation of life becomes their motivating factor. And some people, they'll do everything just to preserve their lives. So who is setting, the question that we have to ask once again is, who is setting the direction of your life right now? What is the motivating force of your life? Why are you studying? Why are you trying to get a better job, better pay? What is the motivation? When I was new in the U.S., I was introduced to this idea. They say, because you were new, you were wondering, People talk about vacation all the time. I was in Virginia Beach. Even in the house where I live, they talk about going to Florida. Now I don't know what Florida is, where it is. I was just new. They talk about going on a cruise. I was asking myself, what's so delightful about these things, Because I was new in the U.S. And then I got into deep conversation with people, and somebody made this comment. They said, Americans work to have a vacation. I said, what? That's what I was told. Americans work to have a vacation. I said, really? And in Virginia Beach, I was talking to some Filipinos and Americans. They really planned the thing. They really planned the thing. It became part of the American culture because of the prosperity, that they can afford to work so many days and they will have extra and have a vacation later. And it became very big part of the conversation. That is the motivation. So what motivates you? Why are you doing what you're doing? And that is when we go to verse 6. The tongue is a fire. There's a material in the Philippines called nipa. Okay? What's the English of nipa? Anybody knows? Huh? Nipa rin? Wow, it's an English. Wow. So they just adapted it in English. Nipa is a highly combustible material that is straw-like. One of the main causes of fire in the Philippines during summer, well, Philippines is always hot. It's either just dry or wet. During dry season, is in the province especially, if somebody is smoking. And I don't know why, but a lot of Filipinos have the habit that after they smoke, they'll just throw the butt away. Or sometimes, pinipitik pa, di ba? Pinipitik pa. Sometimes they'll just throw it in the ground and step on it. So a lot of people have the habit, after they're done smoking, they'll flick it. And too many times, it lands on a nipa roof. It causes a spark, give it a few seconds, the house will burn. You see? That's a small beginning. And so that's a very small fire coming from a used cigarette. But in few minutes, it can burn the whole house. Our house has been, in my lifetime, the place where we're living has been, I've experienced it twice, Filipino houses have an altar. It's a very idolatrous culture. So, in the altar, most of the time you have Mary there, the mother of the Catholics, and you have Joseph, the uncle of the Catholics, and then from time to time they will have Jesus, the Niño, yeah, and then they'll put candles. My mother was lighting the candle, and it fell. It was in the middle of summer. It fell. Our house is on the river, but because it was very hot, the tide was very low. And I was there. I was a little boy. I was there looking, and my mother was taller than me during the time. Now I'm a lot taller than her. But as the candle, the gas lamp fell, I saw how the fire leaked down. And then our house was burning. It was so fast. My mother was standing there, and I was behind her. And my mother was just shocked like that. My ate ran to the chest, baol. I don't know how she can be safe inside there. Maging lechon yun. But then suddenly I hear, our house was already burning. I hear the men, it was in the nighttime, the men in that little pueblo started screaming. And a long line, now you call the fire department, and maybe next year they'll come, But a long line formed from our house to the river with 5-gallon buckets, and that's how they put out the fire. But it was so quick. The house was burned down. Yeah. If you are not careful, you can easily be burned with it. That's how powerful it is. So why is this used here? Because here, although my title is Faith on Fire, fire picture here, referring to our tongue, is used as a destructive force. Okay? What James is preventing us from doing without control is to use our words, to use our tongue as a destructive force. While thinking, we are operating in faith. Because on the opposite, your tongue should be set on fire to bless, not to curse or to destroy. That's why he declared the tongue is a fire. So from verse 5 to verse 6, James is also communicating, along with the previous verses, that no matter how small, don't underestimate the spark that comes out of your lips when you open your mouth. Now, I'm not going to ask for hands here. But let's take, for example, I was counseling a couple. They're not here tonight, so you will not know who they are. Will they ever be here one night? I don't think so, okay? They're already gone. But they are always fighting, this couple. And so I pull out the man in one of our counseling and took him out and says, what is the problem? He told me, he said, Pastor Jose, I will look like a villain to you all the time. He said, I admit, I am wrong. But he said this, my wife knows how to push my button. I said, what do you mean? She only needs to say a couple of words. I'll be on fire. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Okay, I will not look. You know that, right? Yeah, we don't understand. If you are married, you know each other so well, all you need, sometimes you only need to roll your eye and you're burning already. Brother Will is here, just totally agreed. You know, we know how to push each other's button. Now this is the thing. If we know that, and we keep pushing each other's button, can you imagine this? If DJ knows how to push my button, or my wife knows how to push my button, which she does, if I say or do something negative, she will blame me. But who is in control? Who is in control? Come on, be honest for once. The one who pushed the button. Now I may have blown up. Somebody pushed my button. Now, it appears I am guilty. In all likelihood, I am guilty. But somebody pushed the button. Yeah. That is what James is communicating here, you know. And so, you have to eliminate that. You have to allow the Spirit of the Lord and the Word of the Lord to put the control over our lives, not the external forces. The editor-in-chief at one time of the New York Times, I forgot, it was not New York Times, but what's the old name of New York Times? It's been always like that? Or there's another publication there? But it sounds different to me. But the editor-in-chief was very upset. I know there was a case, and he was very upset because people were barking on him, and he feels like losing control. But to show control, Billy Graham was about to come up with a crusade. He told his journalist, Pop Graham. Yeah, Pop Graham. The moment he said Pop Graham, they put Billy Graham on the headline, and that pushed him up. Yeah, he was a struggling evangelist. But when the editor-in-chief said Pop Graham, one order, They put him on the headlines, they put him on the news, they put him on all the media outlets that New York Times control. And that's how he became popular. The famous two words, Pop Graham. That's what happened, you see. And because of that very, very popular order, Pop Graham, it brought Billy Graham's ministry to a new height of publicity. Verse 6 also, as I said earlier, gives us the potential destructive force of the tongue or your words. Now, this is the main thrust of this verse, the destructive power of the tongue or the human words. Now, Proverbs 16:27 reads, Proverbs 16:27, a worthless person digs up evil. Look at this. That's not a complete statement. A worthless person digs up evil. So, now, I've read this several times, but I told you sometimes people tell me, you want to know, and I refuse. Now, that is something that was just repulsed. But then you look at the scriptures, I'm in line with the scriptures. Because only a worthless person digs up evil. His speech is like, look at this. His speech is like a scorching fire. You see this now? The speech of an evil person, well, this is a gossip basically here because he digs up evil. The Bible says that his speech is like a scorching fire. Now, I remember the resignation letter of one of the leaders that we had before, and he wrote my board saying, I know there is something wrong with Pastor Jose. I don't know what it is. Go find it yourself. Look at the scriptures. It's a tongue of fire. He is asking people to dig up evil. Now, some people may feel, wow, that's very spiritual. No, it's not. You end up digging evil. That's the work of a worthless person. So in what way, from this context, can tongue or words be a destructive force? Because we have to learn how to think. How can our tongue be a destructive force? Number one, because it can be a world of unrighteousness. It can be a world of unrighteousness. Right now, what you have in our media, for example, are a lot of lies. I and I are trying to follow the news because of Ukraine. I'm always praying for Ukraine. And there will be interviews that suddenly something will be said and we will just change channel because it's a lie. I remember somebody was saying, well, Putin is doing this, Putin is doing that. And then suddenly, remember this news that Ukraine had sunk the command ship in the Black Sea. After it sunk, I think Putin authorized the bombing of the command centers in Kiev, or threatened to bomb the command centers in Kiev, and he said, this is to retaliate on the sinking of the ship. Retaliate? You started the war. But you see the twisting? What do you mean by retaliate? You started it. Have you noticed when two people are fighting, somebody started, and then suddenly the one who started it, this David Axelrod, the main architect of Obama's speeding the news. He will turn a lie to sound like a truth and turn truth into a lie. That's the power of the tongue. You look at the mass media right now, the amount of lies that are being produced there is going to make your head spin. I struggle to find some news outlets and try to make sense out of what is being said, because we really don't know what's going on. I have a book on the world at war. It's the politics behind the war. It's not the military campaign, but the politics behind the war. And you read that book, you'll say, why in the world did we have Second World War? We're not supposed to have that. Can you imagine right now, they are talking about the possibility of World War III. Now, of course, it's biblical proportion. Because of what? Well, because in 2008, they said it's how it all started. In 2008, in the Bucharest summit, NATO announced they guaranteed in the near future Georgia and Ukraine will be part of NATO. Russia immediately responded saying, no way, we're not going to allow that. And that was around June. By around September of 2014, when the segment was repeated, Russia annexed Georgia and then annexed Crimea and now Eastern Ukraine by words. Simply because the Secretary General of NATO said in 2008, he guaranteed that in the near future, Ukraine and Georgia will be part of NATO. Words. You know, you have to be very careful, especially, by the way, most people don't think. You may think you're thinking that but most people don't think. Yeah. Most people don't think. I'll give you an example. It happened in this church. Sprinkling water, it's provide healing. Come on, where's the science there? You know, where's the science? I remember John got injured volleyball. I saw this American volleyball player, the champion. What's her name? Yeah. She started putting tapes and became popular tapes, you know, the medical tape, I don't know, Scotch tape or whatever it is. But I was looking at that. Now, you know, look, I have a college degree. I think a little bit, you know. I was looking at that and I said, how in the world is that medicinal? It's not salonpas, you know. So I was thinking, oh. By the way, I put salonpas on my body. I said, how in the world is that? It doesn't make sense. I was telling myself, it does. But the news media just immediately, whoa, this is the new thing, the tape, you know. Get the tape. Do you know now what they're saying about the tape? It does nothing. After selling millions of it, now they're saying it does nothing. How in the world are you going to believe these people? You see, but somebody said something. Hey, this is going to make you rich. Buy this. People are sprinkling water sometimes, even in this church, thinking that the service will be better. Well, are you even thinking? You see, just a little bit of common sense. Let's remove common sense na lang. Huwag ng common sense, you know. I mean, how in the world can... Because somebody said something. Yeah. The moment, that is how powerful the human speech is. It can stain the whole body. By the way, have you noticed in the Philippines, this is a joke that we say, the moment you tell somebody you have muta, what will be their immediate reaction? They just took a shower, and may muta ka. Talagang immediately they will try to clean their eyes because there may be a fuss there. That's the immediate effect. Somebody said something. Hell can be the one setting it on fire. That's what. Now, hell, there's nobody in hell right now because hell is for the future. But can you imagine the influence of hell? It can set your tongue in fire. There is what you call as hellish language or hellish tongue. Now, no one can tame the tongue. How many times have you let words come out of your mouth and immediately you stop your mouth? As if signaling, I didn't like to let it out. You know, it is a restless evil. If somebody accuses you, what will be your immediate reaction? To fight back the accusation. And your tongue will be restless. You will not even allow other people to finish their speech. You want to let out whatever you're thinking. Right, DJ? Yeah. You want to let out. You know what if, now that I'm getting older, what I really don't like is when I'm talking. When I'm talking, I'm at the same time thinking, trying to formulate the next words that will be coming out of my mouth. And somebody just want to butt in without allowing you to finish your speech. That's very infuriating to me. And in my house, sometimes, most of the time what I'll do is, I'll be saying something and then somebody butt in, I'll just stop. Because people are shooting their mouth now without thinking. They'll just stop. And sometimes I'll say, did I finish my statement? Why are you saying I say that? Did I say that? No. Did I say that? No. That is restlessness. When you cannot control yourself and you have to let out, spit out that garbage without thinking, that's restlessness. It is full of deadly poison. You know, the Lord of the Rings, part 2. Remember the king of Rohan that aged? Yeah? What bewitched him? The words of that, I don't know who that guy is, that ugly guy. His words poison him. Yeah? Words are very poisonous. My wife tells me, I know it's a joke for her father, but she took it seriously. I don't know how serious she took it. But she said her father will always tell her, you are the ugliest among my girls. So I told my wife, well, your dad lies. Number one, he wears glasses, I don't, during that time. I said, you're the prettiest among your sisters. And she said, no, my father said this. That's a poison right there. Who made you think, for example, the girls here, what made you think you are less prettier than the Miss Universe? Who judged what is pretty? You know, during the old times, fat is beautiful. In Hawaii, fat is still beautiful. Yeah. And suddenly they changed, they say skinny is beautiful. And now those who barely eat is beautiful. Who judges what is beautiful? Yeah. So right now, if you're like this, and your eyes are popping out of its socket, then you're pretty. Who judged that? Right? Who judged that? I mean, can you imagine who they say that's the most beautiful girl in the world? Well, the first judges are all male. How do they know? Yeah. And we buy into that. Now, you see the lie, this is the most beautiful girl in the world. I guarantee you, those judges have never seen all the girls in the world. For you to say this is the most beautiful girl in the world, you must have seen all the girls in the world. Has anybody here ever seen all the girls in the world? What are you doing with your life, You see, these are the lies, and we bought into it. We bought into it. So, my wife was telling me that in one of the Oscar awards, there's this actress, Anne. She wears something from Gap. Who's that? Who? Sharon Stone. She wore something from Gap, and the following morning, all of those items were sold out from Gap. That's how easily it can burn. People don't think. You think those people are thinking? They're not thinking, oh, she bought that. She bought that, and I will turn pretty if I buy that also. Yeah. Okay, so we need to change this. We need to control what is coming out of our lips. Use your tongue or your words to put your faith on fire. Your words can be used for blessing or cursing. All of us here right now, this mouth can be used for blessing or cursing. And look how it says it here. We can bless God with our words. Look at this. We can curse people with it also. It didn't say, look at the comparison. We can bless God with our words. It didn't say we can curse God with our words. Why? Because God cannot be cursed. You cannot curse God. God cannot be cursed. Only people can be cursed. Okay? So either you use your tongue to bless God or curse people. You see? Now it tells us the difference between God and people. If you focus your attention on people, you may end up cursing all the time. But if you focus your attention on God, you may end up blessing God all the time. This is with the same tongue. Your words or your tongue can be used for both. James declared in verse 10 that it should not be this way. God doesn't want us to use our tongue for both, for blessing God and for cursing. Okay? You know, if somebody, for example, just came from the toilet, You don't know what they did in the toilet, but they wash their hands. It's a little bit wet. Do you want to honestly shake their hands? Now we have some soap there. We have some disinfectant. They just came from the toilet and they washed their hands, and you can tell it's wet. And then they. Do you want to shake their hands? The hands got dry. A few minutes later, they extend your hand. Will you shake their hands? Of course, yes. But they all came from the toilet. It just dried up. So you saw somebody coming from the toilet. The hands are wet. Shake. You don't want to shake the hands. Somebody came from the outside. Extend the hand. You took their hands. Whose hand is more dirty? You don't know what they touched outside. Yeah? But you see, this is purely arbitrary. Now, of course, it's coming from the toilet. Even me, I don't want to shake the hand, because it's obviously coming from the toilet. But all of that is arbitrary. But look at the sense. He dries his hand after 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and now you are willing to shake hand. Well, the germs got dried up, but it's still there. You see how foolish our manner of thinking is. But our tongue, if we're not careful, will end up using it to curse all the time. When under the control of the enemy, our tongue will always be used to curse others. This is still in the context of hearing and doing the word. This is against teaching and not doing. When applied to teaching the word and not doing it, we should not teach. Number one. So we were talking the last 2 weeks about not many of you should be teachers, and we understood why it is. Don't teach if you are not doing what you are teaching. Okay? So, how do you decide when to teach or when not to teach? Number one, from verse 8, do not teach out of restlessness. Remember, I told you that when you are conversing with somebody, and then you can't wait, you will not even let them finish their statement. You'll just butt in because you're restless. Okay? Some people are like that. They are very reactive in their teaching. They want to. One of the keys to revival that Lester taught us is unity. What is unity? Unity is, he said, he was illustrating, he said, I can go to the church, to the campus of Oral Roberts and teach, and Oral Roberts doesn't have to worry about anything. He said, because he talks about healing, I talks about healing. He talks about miracle, I talk about miracle. He talks about prosperity, I talk about prosperity. We speak the same thing. We are united. He said the problem is you heard somebody preach and you can't wait to preach something opposite of that so that you can show how smart you are. Then the motivation becomes wrong. Restlessness. Just restlessness. You know. It happened to me several times. I was a young preacher in a small church in the Philippines, and I was already a student. I was already a researcher. So the pastor, during Good Friday, we don't have the tradition here. I'm trying to eliminate as many traditions we can possibly eliminate. But the tradition in Filipino churches is during Good Friday, we have a Good Friday service. What will be the topic of the Good Friday service? I don't know why it's always 7 last words. He knows 7 last words. How many speakers are we going to have? 7 speakers. Yeah, that's the tradition. How long do you give each? 7 minutes. So that is a tradition, and I was part of the tradition. And I remember I was given one of the last words, and the pastor preached, and he preached something that was very wrong. I should have let it go. Yeah, because it's not major, it's a historical fact that he misquoted. So when I stood up to give my piece, I immediately said, well, that's the wrong information. I said, this is the right information. And I was very young. I was something like 19, 18 years old during that time. Now, can you imagine how stupid I can be? I was 18, and I think I know everything. So I know where I'm coming from. So he said, he mentioned something historical that is just totally wrong. I knew this because I know it. I have read books on that one. So I stood up and I said, well, that is actually a wrong information. This is actually what happened on the cross, you know. And I felt very good about myself. And there was silence. And so I finished my time. I sat down. So the next speaker is supposed to come. The pastor come in and say, oh, I stand to be corrected, he said. I was really wrong. That's what the pastor said, the senior pastor. I was really wrong. When he said that, believe me, I felt like I was melting. I was young, but I was not that foolish, and I realized, what have I done? I just discredited my senior pastor for nothing. For nothing. That was just a historical mistake. And I was reading a book. Maybe the book I was reading was also wrong. I was fighting over a non-doctrine. But what I did, which I was not aware of, is I made my pastor look like a fool, saying wrong information. Yeah. But that was when I was very young. And so I take note of that. I said, whoa, I have to be very careful because people were listening to me. Sometimes when you're teaching out of restlessness, rest first. Okay, just be quiet. When we are teaching out of unrighteousness, verse 6, what is that? When you are trying to justify unrighteousness. You know. A lot of Christian believers in the first century, they begin to struggle with circumcision, with food, with immorality and all of those things. And now the driving force of their teaching is self-justification. They want to justify what they are doing. That becomes wrong. Control your tongue. Don't do that. Oh, out of boasting. You know. You can't help. You want to preach. You want to teach so that you can boast about all of these things. I saw this when I was also young. I was already a student of the Bible school. But there is an upcoming young minister. He's an official of this Assemblies of God. In fact, for some of you who came from the other church, you have heard him speak. You know. We were in a camp, and he knew I was a student of the Bible school. I was promoted by the Assemblies of God without applying for promotion. He has his MDiv. He's already educated. I remember in one portion of the teaching, he said, the Greek word says this, and he said this. I have an MDiv. And he looked at me and said, hey, Brother Jose, I know that you're a student and people have mentioned your name to me, but I have an MDiv. I was very young and I said, I don't know what an MDiv is during that time. I was that young. I said, what is an MDiv? You know, I was thinking to myself. But he said that. So that portion of preaching was meant for that. Don't preach like that. Okay, don't preach like that. Because your tongue is a destructive force now. Out of stains. What is out of stains? You can stain people. You can make them look dirty. Or sometimes our lives are stained. You know, that's why there are times you have to really stop opening your mouth, especially if your life is stained, so to speak. But sometimes you want to make it look beautiful still, you see. And so out of that, you want to say something. Or out of untamed tongue. Yeah. That's why the exact opposite. Our tongue needs to be tamed. It can't be controlled. Why? You can't control it. But, look at this. The spirit of the prophet is subject to the prophet. That's the initial hint that we have that we can tame our tongue. You know. Do you know that some people have words of prophecy, but they should control themselves and not say it? I don't know why, but I remember this. Well, these are things that I wish somebody taught me. But I remember we were in a conference at one time in the Philippines, and we were in fact in one place that we always go to, and I was teaching, and I was praying for people, and the Lord gave me two words about two people, you know. And when He gave me the words, I told the Lord in my spirit, shall I say it? I was thinking, oh, if I say it, I have a prophetic word for these two individuals. Sikat, people will see it, that I know spiritual things. But I remember very gently, the Spirit of the Lord told me, no. So I asked Him while I was teaching, why did you tell me? And God spoke to me and says, for your information, I want you to know. Yeah, I want you to know. So I said, well, they have to know. And the Lord told me they already know. And so I backed off. One of them started backsliding. Yeah, started backsliding. When he started backsliding, this was months later. Started backsliding, and people warned me, hey, something is going on with this person. You have to talk to him. When I was being told that, immediately the Spirit of the Lord reminded me of what He told me, and He told me, this is the time for you to share. And so I went to him in private and said, hey, listen, years ago when you're doing this, the Lord told me this is what you're gonna be if you continue to be faithful. And he was just looking at me like that. He said, I know that. I said, what's wrong with you? I have complaints now about you. He turned his life around. Yeah. All of that done in private. You see, you need to be able to tame your tongue. Not because you have something to say means you will say it. You know what's very offensive to elders? When the youngers just keep talking. I'm telling you, it's very offensive to elders. Because sometimes you keep talking, it's coming out of a very disrespectful tongue already. You see? These are the things. Instead, in focusing all of this, why James is saying, start with this. Bless God. The best place, and one of the best ways to start having more control over what comes out of your lips, start with worship. When you can worship God and start blessing God, because the more you focus on blessing God, you will have less time cursing people. Because listen, if you pay attention to the Lord, you will bless Him. But if you pay attention, if you focus yourself on people, you will curse people. Why? Because we are people. We make all kinds of mistakes. You will start cursing people. So focus your eyes on the Lord. Fix your eyes on Jesus, and you will bless Him even more. When you bless Him even more, then you are actually beginning to tame your tongue even more. Your faith can be set on fire, on a wrong way or in a right way. Now, some people, they are burning in their faith, they say, but they are burning in the wrong direction. You see? But you can burn in the right direction. Okay? Learn to be conscious as to what kind of influences are making you say what you are saying and do what you're doing. That's what's motivating you. That's what keeping you up, putting your life ablaze. It's got to be the right motivation. It's got to be the Spirit of the Lord. Amen? Amen. Learn something? Okay, let's all stand. Praise God.